I'm Chris Willis-Ford, Director of Application Development at the Scratch Foundation.
Hi, I'm Kaylen. I'm a product manager at the Scratch Foundation.
And we're going to talk about unforking Blockly, Scratch blocks, and sort of our expectations, realities, and plans regarding accessibility in that context. So there's our agenda. So a little bit of background about Scratch. A lot of you, I'm sure, are familiar, but in case you're not, or in case you're watching this later, Scratch is a lot of things. Scratch is a movement. Scratch is a learning philosophy founded in constructionism, et cetera, et cetera. The part of Scratch that we're talking about today is the digital space that encourages creative learning through block-based programming. Came out of the Lifelong Kindergarten Group at MIT, run by Mitch Resnick. 2007 is when the online community showed up in Scratch 1.0. There was some online stuff a little bit before that, but that's the official 1.0. And more than 130 million children all around the world have created more than 1 billion Scratch projects since then. It was actually a little bit of a panic as we hit that billion mark because suddenly project ID numbers looked like phone numbers. Here's a little bit of a timeline for the stuff that we're talking about today. Back in 2016, Scratch 2.0 was built in Flash. Flash was going away. Oh no, what do we do? Let's make a new Scratch built on web technologies, JavaScript, Canvas, things like that. Well, all of our block rendering code is built in Flash. Oh wait, we have friends at Google who have made Blockly. So we forked Blockly, created Scratch blocks. Lots of help from Google at that time to do so. 2019, a few years later, Scratch 3.0 was officially released. Not that long afterward, we started, oh no, Blockly is making progress. Scratch blocks is not making the same progress. We should start thinking about unforking. We, with the help of Kaylen Mann, a previous Blockly employee and then a Scratch employee, as well as others on the Scratch team, kind of listed out all of the things we would need to do to unfork and identified, this one would be hard. Maybe something about variables. This one's going to be hard. Maybe something about our extensions. If you were here for Aaron's talk yesterday, you may have noticed that he mentioned some specific things that they changed in Blockly version 12 that align with some things that were on our really difficult list. That list of difficult things was a little too long for us at the time. We panicked, set it aside. CS First and Blockly contacted us a while later and offered help in unforking. And help is such a small term for what they've done for us. Thank you so much to everyone who has been involved in this effort. Now, it's not listed on here. We haven't technically fully unforked yet. The work is in a branch. We're in the QA kind of phase. There are some significant bugs we've got to work on fixing. There are some administrative hurdles to take care of, but we're really hoping to finish unforking this year. In terms of accessibility, I was curious. I had heard that there were accessibility improvements in Blockly that have happened along the way. I hadn't closely tracked it. Some things that just happened, I'm gonna say for free, but I recognize that it was a lot of effort from the Blockly team and everyone that's helped us with this. Some things that happened for free-ish, free from my perspective, let's say. We got ARIA labels and we got improved tab order. ARIA labels help with screen readers and everything like that. And the tab order helps everybody, really. See also Rachel's comments about keyboard access yesterday. There we go. So one thing that struck me is moving from, I'm going to call it legacy Blockly. I can't say Blockly version because there was no version number on it at the time. Moving from there to the modern version of Blockly, this is a Blockly v12 beta here. Some dramatic differences. There are a few pixels missing above motion. And the exact location of the blocks in the workspace is slightly different. But it's, I'm really impressed at how similar this looks. So props for that. Here's a kind of confusing example of the ARIA labels that just showed up as part of this work. If you know about ARIA labels, this is not a full solution already, but the tool is there. We can work on this now. Also, I mentioned tab order. So on this example, I'm going to show the new first. So let's say you click into move 10 steps, you press tab, you move to the next text field in the turn 15 degrees block. You hit tab again, you get the next text field, as you might expect. On the other hand, in the old version, if you're in the move 10 steps input field and you hit tab, you go immediately into a black hole. In some of the talks yesterday, you heard discussion of maybe a hotkey to move between major parts of the program and things like that. That's really exciting. I love that idea. This happened for us as just part of the upgrade. Really, this is motivation. If you have not moved to the most recent Blockly, this is the kind of thing that's waiting for you. Unless you've done it yourself, in which case, have fun with your merge conflicts. And I'm going to pass it off to Kaylen for our current status.
Yes, so taking a broader look beyond just Blockly at our current accessibility status, at this point in time, when it comes to screen reader and low vision users, there's minimal accessibility, and part of that is due to that lack of intentional labeling. So elements that currently lack semantic meaning or appropriate context when announced by a screen reader, those pose issues for those users at this point in time. And we also still have some work to do when it comes to improving the visual recognition of elements, including when zoomed and magnified. Also, things like color contrast are important to us to focus on. When we look at speech dictation, there is perhaps maybe a better chance of those users having a sense of the broader context of the Scratch platform, but they're still limited in their capacity for meaningful task completion because, likewise, those speech dictation tools match spoken commands to label text, so here the labeling issue is causing failures in command recognition. But of course, we have these Blockly possibilities, so with that unforking work that's happening, we know that there are going to be improvements for sighted keyboard-only users coming, things like proper focus management, distinguishing the indication of selected items. These are both going to better enable keyboard navigation. And there, of course, is still the question of blind keyboard users, and we know that there is Blockly work going into screen reader support. So really it's about looking at what is the interactive pattern that's going to be established there, how will they borrow from other existing paradigms so that users are able to easily work within Scratch. And ultimately, like these problems, many of them have known solutions, so the key at Scratch is really sequencing everything that needs to be done so we can achieve the optimal experience for disabled users. And so this is just one example thinking about our visual situation where you see high contrast block colors here, which in 2023, we released a new color scheme designed to improve the contrast between the text on a block and that block's background color. So on the left, you see the typical Scratch blocks, and on the right, you can see that high contrast mode. And I'm going to come back to this example shortly, but first, just digging into our accessibility roadmap for 2025. We've been actively partnering with a blind computer scientist-led company for a comprehensive accessibility analysis and discovery report to really uncover those places that we can focus on as the building blocks to greater accessibility on Scratch. And generally, our focus areas for improvement this year, we're thinking about the design and implementation of UI enhancements to improve the visual and underlying semantic accessibility of the interface. So things like color contrast, we've found that there are even some issues with our existing high contrast mode, and we might want to even consider having multiple high contrast modes to help users that have different types of color blindness. We can also think about like dark mode, which can support accessibility in the sense of comfort, reduce glare, lessen eye strain. And while that's not a substitute for true high contrast accessibility modes, that is something that can potentially benefit a broad amount of users. As I mentioned, clear labeling, so thinking like use of color, how can we look at things that are currently identified only with color and consider adding, icons. Also labeling areas to facilitate better access for screen reader users and speech dictation users. And yeah, also that Blockly keyboard plugin is, of course, going to represent a lot of potential there. And this is going back to that high contrast example where you can see that the new block colors may have actually made distinguishing block categories harder for some users. And this is simulating protanopia. And you can see, though, that final block at the bottom where we have the icon, that's pretty clearly a music block. And so there's lots of potential there to improve things for users with and without disabilities. And we just want to close on this quote from Derek Featherstone, who is a leader in the inclusive design space. And this quote really speaks to us because we want to ensure that the disabled experience is not just accessible, it's not just about checking boxes, but moving towards something that is inclusive, engaging, and fun for all users. This is a central focus for us as we move forward. So we must move from thinking of accessibility as compliance to thinking of it as a creative opportunity and all the things that we can do there that make these experiences on Scratch accessible to all users. So thank you.
This is Richard Ladner from University of Washington. One issue with Scratch is not just the programming part, but the output, which is not very accessible. Are you working on that too?
That's a hard problem, especially given that we render things with Canvas and they're pixels. But the consultants we're working with have suggested a few ideas. One of them gave us an example of they believe that we can get to where a fully blind user can make a game about dragons flying across the screen, and a sighted user could play that game and have fun and enjoy the dragons flying across the screen. There are a lot of steps between here and there, but they've encouraged us to believe that that's possible.
Yeah, and even thinking about like the spatial recognition, like how can we do that perhaps in like an auditory way for users who have visual impairments? That's something that's on our mind.